Hey, everybody, this is GW again, just talking to you about my retirement thoughts. This is my retirement thoughts number 5. Don't know what number 4, 3, 2, or 1 really were, other than my just griping and complaining. Had one guy made a comment on my actual retirement thought number 4, basically said, Geezer, you need to go get a job. Well, that's interesting because the last thing I want to do is get a job where I actually have to report. But he's right in the fact that it would occupy my time and make it so that I would be a whole lot probably less grumpy and maybe less geezerish, whatever a geezer ish is. So let me talk about retirement. It's uh, it's interesting. I had a summer cold here last week. Found out that uses up a lot of time. I mean, it was really one of the quickest weeks that I have experienced in a long time because, it seemed like I was, not feeling very good and using up a lot of time sitting around. Didn't feel guilty about sitting around. Worked out pretty good. So really not sure what else I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm feeling better. Not that anybody cares, but I'm feeling better now, feeling my oats. Went out, played golf, played well today. Really enjoyed that, and managed to get around the course without dying on the course. It was altogether a pretty good day. So I am pushing forward with my retirement. And what I'm finding is that I am feeling less guilty about not doing anything as the days go on. So so here I am. Now, one thing that I do find myself doing is I watch national news a whole lot more than I ever did before. And if you've watched these over the last year or so, you've seen several iterations of my giving thoughts about how the government's doing or what it's doing and why it's doing it and what on earth it's trying to do and which nobody knows. So today, the stock market exploded. I mean, it went up like 1,000 points, maybe 900. It was up really a lot. And I was talking with some of the guys I know, some of the smartest people I know, and nobody had any good reasons of why it was that high. I mean, it couldn't be because we had FBI had raided John Bolton's house. The used to be the national security advisor to Trump, and but now a critic of Trump. So now he gets his house raided just in case that he was doing something untold inside the house. Really just a power play, or, was it because the Fed came out and says, okay, we're not going to cut rates right now, but, we're thinking about it in the future. So maybe that'll do something. I don't know that any job reports or anything came out with any particular great comments in it, but for some reason, the stock market just went crazy. And, that's not unusual. When you take a look at how the stock market reacts, there is very little rhyme or reason on a day-to-day basis. Now, when you look at the big trends, then yes, there's things that go on that are going to affect the big trends in the stock market. But on the day-to-day, which has been equated to me about a guy on a pogo stick who's pogo sticking up a hill, and he's going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. And that's what the stock market does on a daily basis. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down, generally in a upward swing. Occasionally makes a little bit of a correction so that it can come back up. But trying to figure out exactly what's going on, really hard to do. Okay, so I mentioned that the FBI raided Bolton's house and his home and office, and just really don't know any reason why they would do that other than the fact that they were distracting from the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files and the interview that Maxwell had with the FBI here recently. Not sure why that needed to be distracted from, but apparently it did. And so you have that, and then you have the National Guard in D.C. And I saw a guy talk to a guy who said, what you need to do when you see one of these big things like the National Guard, you gotta you got to kind of sit back and wait. I mean, don't just sit there and go, holy crap, the National Guard is in DC. And don't just sit there and go, okay, well, the reason why is because the crime is so bad in DC that the police cannot keep it under control. So they have to bring in the National Guard to supplement the police presence that they have. Might be some logic to that, actually. I mean, it could be that is something worse. It has worked in the past in other cities in a very, very finite type situation. The worrisome thing is that there are indications that the National Guard, the Army, the Defense Department, putting plans together to go into other cities. And the other cities tend to be ones that are being run by the Democratic Party rather than the Republican Party. So why are they being potentially targeted? Makes no sense to me other than a power play. So that's what I think. Well, is this a power play? Well, I don't know. I think in this case, it's probably both. I think that there's probably a valid reason to send in the National Guard to get the crime under control, as long as there's an end date. Of National Guard's going to be there for 60 days and get that under control, get the gangs kind of quieted down, and then they're going to leave and the police can take over. I haven't heard about an end date on that. I haven't heard about an end date anywhere. So then you have whether or not it is just a power grab, and to me, it really does seem like just a power grab, just to sit there and go, look out, I can do this. This is within my quiver of arrows that I have here that I can expend. I can send the National Guard in and do anything, and I can send the FBI in and I can knock down your door, and I can take a look in your house anytime I want to. So what you also have is you have the news source that is out there. Now you have Putin with the Alaska meeting that he had and the fallout, which just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And you have the different activities that are going on and everything. You have the DIA director, for instance, who was fired for a loss of confidence. Well, what does that mean? Loss of I mean that. I think my wife would lose confidence in me about 3 times a day, in all honesty. So, the entire intelligence leadership apparatus in the United States has been gutted when you go back to January when the Trump administration took over. You take a look at who's leading it and who has been fired, who has resigned, who has gone on to different things. And you go, oh my gosh, this is a type of leadership, though, that cannot be replaced easily. Probably decades to recover from what the last 6 months have done. I was in the intelligence community. This is not something that I'm talking from a position of ignorance. I wasn't the senior guy at one of these things, but I was in the intelligence community. This is bad. This is not good. So when you take a look at that, and then you take a look at the news sources, the news sources are not reporting everything that's going on. For instance, the National Guard in DC, there's large protests that have gone on inside the District of Columbia against having the National Guard in place there. I mean, large. I mean, multiple thousands of people in one place, just protesting this. Gets nearly zero news coverage. Not totally zero, nearly zero news coverage. That's not the type of thing that needs to be underreported. It is just amazing. So, anyway, what's going on in the country? I don't know. My day to day life has not been impacted yet. Well, my expenses have gone up a little bit because of the tariffs, and that's just going to continue to go up. My desire to buy a car or not buy a car, things like that, are being impacted by what's going on. But in reality, my day to day impact, not that much right now. But I'm in kind of a bubble. I'm on a fixed income. I am sitting here, as a retired guy. I'm not trying to get a job, although that one guy said as a geezer I ought to go out and get one. I'm not trying to. I'm able to support my family with what my savings are at this time. Hopefully that will continue. No guarantee to that, but um, it is in my particular state of time. It's a pretty comfortable way of life. But if I was 30, I would be scared to death of what my life at 40 was going to look like. And that's the part that is just unacceptable to me in the United States of America. So, anyway, those are my retirement thoughts. Not very happy thoughts today, but hopefully everybody understands. I'm trying to come from a place of reason with this. There's not everything has been bad. There are some things I'm sure that have been worked out better than others. But I think that life as we knew it never going to come back. So enjoy. I hope everybody's happy with what we have because we're stuck with it. So that's it. I'm GW. Those are my retirement thoughts number 5. You all take care.